name is Shifu Emamulu, and today I'm here to teach you about academic integrity. The first steps. When a student is taking a comprehensive class like the 1302 class, which is meant to teach you about the fundamentals of English, you need to be able to understand what you're doing and not fall into academic dishonesty. And this is where the syllabus comes into place, because in the syllabus, this is where a student will find the basic backbone of the class, such as grading, the professor's contact information, etc. But today, it's most important for the academic correctness, because it's where the teacher will put what you're supposed to do and not what you're not supposed to do. It tells the student what is expected of them academically to avoid academic dishonesty, among some other things. This is an example of a syllabus. This syllabus shows what the student is expected to avoid from getting academic dishonesty. And you can see our professor has marked it for us with 1 to 7. Number 1 being failing to acknowledge any sources of information. And this is bare bone academic dishonesty, because this is just plagiarism. This is taking someone else's work and copying and pasting it as your own. Number 2 says failing to acknowledge direct quotations either by quotation marks or passages, which is also just basic plagiarism, as you're not giving the original person credit. Number 3, paraphrasing the original words. Even though you're paraphrasing the original words, it's still the original words of the first person that wrote about it. And if you're not giving them credit, it's also plagiarism. Number 4, borrowing ideas, examples of structures without acknowledging it, just plagiarism. You're not citing their other person's source. Number 5, buying or receiving papers by someone else and presenting it as one's own. This is more advanced level of plagiarism, because you're buying a paper and you're turning it in, even though you did not do any work for it, it's paying money. And if you're caught, you might be kicked out of the class or be failed automatically. And number 6, using a paper to 2 different courses. This is just simply down to self-plagiarism, as even if you use one paper for a science class, you can't use it for an English class, and that's just how it works. And number 7 is submitting AI as one own. This is a very big one nowadays, because AI has been so risen up from previous times. Therefore, teachers are starting to limit the amount of AI that students could use when working on their papers. You need to analyze the syllabus. By analyzing the information given by the professor, you can see the guidelines set and how it's now on to the students to follow these guidelines, and how they have to avoid any instances of academic plagiarism. As you can see, number 1, failing to acknowledge any source of information. Number 2, acknowledging the direct quotation marks. Number 3, paraphrasing. Number 4, borrowing the ideas, examples. And number 5, buying, taking, or receiving a paper, etc. This is all guidelines written by a professor to make sure that the students do not fall into academic dishonesty. And it's up to the students to look at these guidelines and guide themselves on what they should do and what they should not do. Documentation on paper. When formatting an essay or any other writing piece, such in the 1302 class, it is essential that students must pay close attention to their sources and claims, and it's not only one of the most important parts of the essay. A mistake here, even if accidental, is still enough for failure and giving you a failing grade, which is why it's important for students to know what style and formatting their work is revising. An example of this is using an APA formatting style on an MLA paper. Even though you're still citing your source, the teacher might still give you a failing grade because it's not the correct format that they want the sources to be in. And this is an example of that. As you can see, the APA have different formattings for the MLA and the bibliography. You can see that the difference. This one is the name, the publisher name, but the name starts first here, etc. How to avoid academic dishonesty. There's some ways to avoid academic dishonesty, like plagiarism, when working on writing a paper. This can mostly come down to self-revision. Once you're done writing your essay, you can go back and look over it to make sure that you limited the amount of mistakes that you made, look back at your sources and make sure they're all in the correct format. Next, you can let someone else read your paper so that they can look at it and maybe they catch a mistake that you didn't catch when you were looking at it. So that can help reduce your error. But the best choice, I would say, is just to ask your professor, finish your work early so that you have enough time to go to them, get their feedback so that you can change it if you did anything wrong. But if you did it right, you can just go ahead and turn it in. The consequences of academic dishonesty. The consequences of academic dishonesty mostly depend on the type of professor you have. As some of them may have more leeway into what they do, or less leeway in what they do. Like I would say some examples is like a professor, if you did it accidentally, like you just did a different format, they could just take some points off and still pass you, while some others could just flat out give you an F. So it's important that you try to eliminate the amount of errors you make and make sure that you don't fall into academic dishonesty, which is why it's important for students to double check their work to ensure that proper grades and eliminate any chance for errors that may be costly to them later down the line for their grades and their GPA. This is an example of the consequences. Have papers. As you can see, no use of AI or grammar checks without the professor's approval. And it contains plagiarism, which is academic dishonesty. These are my references, Professor Boy's syllabus, as this is where I got all my images from for this presentation. Thank you for learning about academic dishonesty with me, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Thank you.